Hey, today I'd like to talk about something that's very confusing, which is the IDs used for COBie and IFC. So let's go in Revit and check out the interoperability tools, and we're going to go into the project setup. Now, this is kind of the source of the problem because the user interface that Autodesk has created induces users pretty much into errors automatically. So the options we see for identification, which is what's going to be known as the external identifier, we're given three options. One is the Revit ID. Now, you're probably wise enough to know that this is a terrible idea. First off, they're tiny little numbers. They're not unique. And they're probably not going to make their way into the IFC. You're not going to find those in other softwares and so forth. So let's just look at Revit ID real quick. We're going to select this element, go into Manage, and say Show IDs. And this is what it looks like. Okay, the second option is GUID. That sounds great. It's actually wrong. So this is the Revit GUID, which you're never going to find in the IFC file. So if you use that as your main way of identifying elements, you're not going to be able to link it to your IFC, which defeats the entire point. Not to mention, Revit GUIDs are extremely hard to even look at. You need to have developer tools like Revit Lookup to be able to get that data. So if I scroll down here, I'm going to see the unique ID for the Revit element in this location right here. So it's this very long string of numbers. All right, now those that are familiar with IFC probably already know the answer. What we want is the IFC GUID. So it's really not clear. First off, that should be the first option in the interoperability tools, would be to default to the IFC GUID because that's the only thing that makes sense. But let's go and check out how we can set this up. First thing is we need to set the identification to mapped parameters, and then we need to go into our parameter mapping. And in here, what we're looking for is the external identifier, not the one for type, but the regular one. And to solve the issue, we're going to click on those three dots and scroll all the way down until we find IFC GUID. And if we set it up like this, where we're using the mapped parameter for identification and the IFC GUID, we're going to have the desired result where we can link Revit, IFC, and COBie together. Now, why is this so hard, unintuitive, and lacking any kind of documentation or support? I don't know. Let's take a quick look at the IFC GUID. First off, it's only been a couple of years since Revit has started automatically filling these in and adding the parameter in every single element. So before that happened, I can understand how it wasn't clear how to link your data. But now this is a new phenomenon, this is a new behavior, and the documentation and the knowledge industry hasn't really been updated. And there are some cool things about being able to access and actually edit these IFC GUIDs, because you can take a bunch of things in Revit and reclassify them and merge them together. So let's look at this example. We have a bunch of walls and some floor, and we could say that this is, a recycling box or a bread box or something. All we would need to do is give them all of the same GUID. So I'm going to go here and see I have 5 elements, and I'm going to give them all the same GUID. And then I would give them a new category in here. Obviously it's not a door, but I would give them a new category. And this allows you some level of creativity where if you don't have a family or if you want to merge multiple things together as one, you can do that by playing around with the IFC GUIDs and the classification of those elements. So I just wanted to clear that up because I think it's a point of confusion. I'd say the biggest culprit, frankly, is whoever designed this terrible interface for the interoperability tools did not update the documentation, didn't guide anybody else. They basically guided you in the wrong direction and made the right solution really convoluted, undocumented, and hard to find. So the only way to fix this in the industry is if this is clear and everybody understands it clearly, but this is a hard problem. So unfortunately, it required a data intervention to let people know and start a conversation. Now, I'm really curious. Did I do anything wrong? Am I completely mistaken? Do you do something else in your office? How do you export your COBie data and link it to your IFC? There's going to be a very important follow-up on this because we're going to talk about the problems of bringing IFC GUIDs inside of Power BI, but I want to get this point fully concrete and clear for everybody before we go into part 2. All right, let me know your thoughts. Have a great day. Cheers.